Hello, and welcome to Selene's Gateway office hours version. Today I'm just working on some charts, and basically I'm just going to kind of be sitting here working and doing some stuff, and basically I'm just making myself available for people to come and join me and bring conversation, ask me questions, say hello, anything like that. I plan on doing this probably every Saturday around this same time. Speaking of time, it is the 27th day of September of 2025. It is 10:10 a.m. here in Portland, Oregon, and it is the hour of the sun and the day of Saturn. We are expecting, we just got news here in Portland, Oregon, that we are expecting Donald Trump to be sending the National Guard to us. And so, so that's part of the news for today, and, kind of one of the things that's on my mind. And Orphic astrology. Happy Saturn's Day to you as well. Would you like me to call you Natalia or Natalie? I promise I won't call you Natalie. And Blue's trying to say hello to everybody as well. Blue, the astrologer cat, who's always with me in all of my studies and classes. And I don't know if y'all can hear the chickens, but the chickens are singing an egg song right now, so that's part of my life as well. How's your Saturday going, Orphic? Heard that, Natalia. Oh, great. That's awesome. You're about to cook some steak. That's fantastic. For those who may be watching this later, one of my monikers, or one of the things that I go by, is the esoteric butcher, and I am a butcher. That's why I'm called that. So I know my way around some meat. Do you know the name of your local butcher? Is it like, I'm assuming, you live in Benin, right? Correct, Natalia? And so I'm assuming it's not like a Walmart grocery store butcher that you're going to. That's one of the downfalls of Portland, actually, is that we've had a bunch of people try to open up a local butcher shop in town, but we also have a pretty responsible grocery store chain here called New Seasons, and they already offer really local, organically raised beef. So there's not a market for going to an individual butcher shop. It's like too out of the ordinary. No, Natalia goes to a bona fide local butcher with fresh local meat, which is awesome. One of the things I aspire to is to be able to offer people, to get out on my own and to be able to offer people as local product as possible, and even conduct like ceremonial rituals around the process of slaughter, and to actually pay respect and give thanks to the animals as they are In the butcher world, we call it dispatched, but as we take their life, as we, move them on to the next realm, I want to offer a ritual that includes that, as that gratitude, that sense of gratitude for them. And hopefully that's what the universe has in store for me, because that's what I'm putting out there. In the spring, there's this group called Gathering Ways in Washington, in the Pacific Northwest here in the U.S. And I took a ceremonial slaughter class from them in April, and I slaughtered my own sheep with a knife, and it was beautiful. It was wrapped in, you know, I introduced myself to the sheep, and it was a locally raised sheep, and the whole process was really wrapped with a lot of care and ceremony and song and prayer, and it was a really beautiful experience. It was the first time I had ever intentionally taken the life of an animal, especially for food, and it was a beautiful experience. And yeah, it was a whole weekend retreat, and it started with us gathering around and just talking about death and what our experience with death was, and sharing our stories about grief, and just really going into that place mentally, emotionally, and connecting with a group of people around the subject. And then we shared lunch together, and then we moved on to slaughter. And it was a really beautiful experience. And it was a weekend, and so like we slaughtered the animals, and then moved on to continuing to process. But we didn't try to like force it all in one day, because there's people that didn't have any experience with using a knife at all, and so it was very, very well held and kept, and it was very lovely. So that was one of the gifts that last year brought me. And then on an astrological level, the fun thing about this story too is that I'm in Austin Copic's FOA program, Fundamentals of Astrology. And I was in the year 2 part of the course, or I had been in the year 2 part of the course. I was already out of it by the time I experienced this event. But one of the parts of the year 2 is you start to learn electional astrology. Yeah, for those that aren't familiar, electional astrology is the process of choosing when to do something. And it's because we have the beautiful paths and speeds, and the map of the stars, and we have the math to be able to push that map forward and see how the weather evolves over time. We can use those configurations as ways of choosing when to do things next. And that's called electional astrology. And when you first learn electional astrology, this happens to a lot of people, is they get obsessed with it, and it becomes a way of governing one's life, like especially in the modern age, where you don't actually have to use all of the math all the time to drop a chart, where you just have all these wonderful apps that we can just open up a chart and like look at what the chart of the moment looks like, which is just, it would blow astrologers' brains. Even 100 years ago, like astrologers would just be blown away by not having to like do the math every single time they wanted to look at a chart. But anyway, so we can get a little obsessed as astrologers when we first learn about electional, like, oh my God, am I brushing my teeth at the right time? Should I wait till Saturn's hour to brush my teeth, or the Lord of my 6th house? Or I don't know. That's an extreme example, but it's an example. So anyway, I was learning the art of electional astrology. And part of what Austin Coppock teaches is he leans towards the magical side of astrology, where we believe that we are, or at least this is how I view it, is that we are interconnected and intertwined with the cosmos, and everything is interrelated and interconnected to each other, and but not finite. Reality is still malleable. We still have the ability to choose and shape the forms in which time is created. It's simply like sitting down with a piece of clay and molding it into whatever shape you choose. Like that's kind of part of the process. Is you've been given the clay, and then it's your choice. So how do you shape it into something? And that's kind of what we do with time. Is we're offered decisions that we need to make. Some of them are brought to us from our decisions in the past, but in general, time is like an experiential, malleable state. Though it may seem like we can get trapped and fixed sometimes. But anyway, so that's magical electional astrology. And so I chose a date, and we were in class, and we were experiencing Austin kind of like looking over our choices and stuff like that. And I threw my date out there for him to judge, and he pulled it up, and his first reaction was like, "What is this?" And I had the ascendant in Aries on top of Neptune and Mercury, or something like that, and he was just like, why are you electing a Neptune rising chart? And what I was actually trying to do was like have the sun be exalted in Aries, before Saturn moved in there and started like creating its harshness on the sign, bringing its strictness to the Aries principle. And so we messed with it and fiddled with it, and he hummed and hawed about it, and he was about to approve it, but then he noticed how close Pluto was to this opposition with Mars. And Mars was coming back out of Cancer at that period of time. It was like a couple days or like a day before Mars would be moving into Leo and creating a direct opposition with Pluto, which is a really harsh aspect. In case you're watching this and don't know that level, but if you do, then yeah, it's the Mars Pluto aspect, that opposition. We've been watching those for really intense moments, like the Pluto Mars square that we're actually experiencing right now, with everything that's going on in that. And so anyway, he was like, I just really can't, like, this was in November of 2024. He was like, I really can't like accept this as an election. That Mars Pluto opposition is just too much. And so so time passed, and I graduated from the class and stuff like that, and some other things happened, and then we experienced this like universe aligning sort of a thing. And it was like I was in a Saturn year, a Saturn perfection year at the time, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do my taxes on Saturday during Saturn hour, get the obligatory drudgery thing, out of the way. And because that's one of the things that Saturn's the custodian of, is like obligatory, like the confines of dealing with like contracts and taxes, just like taxes. And so I did my taxes, I did it, and then I went on my phone to like scroll out for a little while, and the first thing that pops up on my phone is this Gathering Ways farm slaughter class for sheep. And I was just like, oh yeah, that's really cool. I remember following that Instagram page a while ago because of one of my friends, another astrologer, heavy metal astrology. He brought it to my attention because he experienced them at a summer solstice event that he had went to, And he told me about the fact that they're like doing this whole bull, like cow slaughtering ritual at the summer solstice, like festival thing that he went to. And so I saw them on my Instagram feed after doing my taxes, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. And then I clicked into the website and started looking around, and then I noticed that the price of the class was the same as the cost of, was what I was getting back from my tax return. It was just equal. It was like directly equal. And I was like, okay, well, like that's a go. I'm definitely going to do that. And it's a slaughter class, and Saturn rules death. And so then time passes, and I put it in my schedule, and I pay for the class, and I get it all set up, and I get ready to go and stuff like that. And then it dawns on me that the first day of the class was the day that I had elected to do my Exalted Sun thing back in November. It was the exact same day. And and it was wild. And so I thought about trying to like leave for the class at the time that I had elected, because it was supposed to be like an early morning thing, but that didn't work out. And the trip there went smoothly. It was only 2 hours away from Portland. It was up by Richmond, Washington, which is just to the west of Olympia, Washington. And yeah, I got up there and I got my tent set up, and we did the grief talk, which was really beautiful. And then we had lunch, and then I was the first one to choose and slaughter my sheep. And we did the thing. It was actually, I don't want to say we did the thing. So one of the things that we did is we had a tent set up. We went around the land that we were on, and picked a bunch of things that we found around the land, and built an altar in the center of the tent. And then it was explained to us that there was a side of the tent where the side of the tent on the east side, that was where the living entered from, and a side of the tent that was the west side, which is where the dead would exit, as we did each sheep one at a time, which was really beautiful, because that's also really fitting with how we look at with how the Egyptians saw the east and the west, and kind of part of the layouts of the chart, the astrological chart itself. But the host wasn't familiar with astrology. She was going off of her own ancestral knowledge and stuff like that. And we love how different cultures see these rising and setting suns in a similar symmetry. And so we made a beautiful like flower and wood and rock altar in the middle of the tent. And then we gathered around. We carried my sheep into the tent, and I struck her neck, and we gathered her blood, as she bled. And and we sang, and we said a prayer. And then when I was done, I got up and I made note of the time. I looked at the clock on my phone. I didn't get on my phone to like look at the chart of the moment, but I made note of the time. And after the day was done, and we had returned to our camp and stuff like that, I had noticed that at the chart of the moment, the moon had moved into the tropical lunar mansion, that is roughly translated into English as the Slaughter's Joy. And that the Exalted Sun was in the 10th house. And it was just a really wonderful, beautiful like experience that I had. Thanks for conjuring that memory, Natalia. as we are talking about delicious, locally raised, and ethically processed steaks. I couldn't remember if I'd actually shared that story with you already or not, but that was one of my favorite moments from this year so far. Was back in April. Natalia says that's powerful initiation. Yeah, that it was really beautiful, and I hope to get back up there. They've extended an invitation for past participants to come up and help with future classes, and I really hope to get up there to do that with them. Limited in my transportation right now. Katie, my partner, and I share a vehicle, and so we don't always get the chance to like go on like solo missions and stuff like that. And Blue, the astrologer cat, and also magician cat, he has a seizure disorder, so we can't leave him alone. He usually has to come with us. So there's stuff like that kind of trickles in the way, but overall, yeah, the things are lining up to be able to get me back up there to help them with stuff. If Sarah and Harmony end up getting the chance to watch this, I really respect what y'all are doing at Gathering Ways. Find them at gatheringways.com. And if you're in the Pacific Northwest area, go see them, get initiated, go learn how to. If you have no experience with any cooking, any sort of using a knife, they're there to guide your hand. We were doing it with people that. One of the cool things is one of the people that came up in the group that I was a part of was this father who had no experience in it, and he brought his son. His son wanted to learn how to hunt, and he didn't have any experience. His father didn't have any experience with like what to do with an animal. They were both good at shooting, and they drove all the way up from Utah to take this class. And it was beautiful watching them like grow and share that experience together. Natalia says, I haven't heard the details of your experience yet, but I have mad respect for authentic old school butchers because my maternal great-grandmother was a butcher too. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure you can see that in your chart too. I actually have never looked at your chart as a whole before. I don't even know if you've seen mine, but Natalia, Orphic Astrology, is a fantastic astrologer, and you can check her out at her website. And we are actually, I'm signed up to her Patreon, and one of the things that she offers is we've been reading through scholastic astrological texts together as a group. And I think it's a really fun thing to experience because these old texts, these old astrological texts, or the study of them, can be really dry material, and so it's fun to be able to like read it with other people because you get to talk, you get to discuss about it and stuff like that. And you also get to make fun of each other's pronunciations or give each other the space to mispronounce things and hold each other in that because there's oftentimes words that like none of us really know how to pronounce properly. We're dealing with ancient Greek and ancient Arabic, or not ancient Arabic, but ancient Greek and Arabic and Latin and all these other languages that astrology has lived through. And so it's great to be held in that space. So you should definitely check out Orphic Astrology's Patreon. She also offers a discussion about the heliacal rising stars of the month and different things like that. And yeah, and you should check her out. Yeah, I'm glad you got to hear about that experience. Yeah, it was fun, very powerful, very moving. Yeah, I've cared a lot about, reuniting people with food source ever since I started cooking. Orphic says it's always fun to read with everyone. Yeah, I think it's great. I think that we hold the space really well. Let's see, where'd my coffee go? Here it is. So what I'm working on right now is I'm working on a friend's chart. They've had some relationship issues over their life, and so oh, what's up, Sparkles? My good friend Sparkles of Gold Astrology, Nicholas, has stopped by. He's been a very supportive figure in my life since I met him a couple of years ago at a park in Portland. He started creating a local astrology group here in town where people are doing presentations, and I'm actually really excited to be presenting in October. I haven't heard if you've actually nailed down the exact date and time of that, Nicholas. So if you could give me some contact on that, I'd appreciate it. I believe we talked about maybe October 13th or 14th. But yeah, Nicholas has been super supportive. And I really appreciate his work. You can find his YouTube channel. He does great lives. He has great insights about the transits and what's coming up. And he's a huge resource of definitely books if you need any book suggestions, and also just a huge part of NORWAC if you've ever been to the Northwest Astrology conference, NORWAC. He's always tinkering behind the scenes, helping with keeping everything organized and moving. Just a big part of the community, really. Yeah. So if you end up watching this, you should check him out. And he's been a big supporter of me and my friends here in Portland and all the things that we've been doing. So yeah, so I'm working on my friend's chart, and she's had some relationship issues over the years. So I'm just going to be looking at her chart for some different techniques. In the first part of the process is I'm just going to break down what her Arabic relationship lots are, and be taking a look at those. I'm not going to share any details about her life, her experience, or anything like that. But yeah, just kind of going through my process. First thing I'm doing is I'm just writing down the list of lots that I want to use and their calculations. I like to calculate the lots by hand. There's highly recommend AstroSeek. It has so many fantastic tools on it. But yeah, I like to do the math out by hand. Just something about the experience of doing calculations. I really feel like math is a being, and it's just, I believe it's when you're working with math, you're working with Mercury, and Mercury is associated with astrology. So I feel like when you're engaged with Mercury's tools, I really feel like it helps connect to the realm. It's like the difference between popping a pre-made meal in the microwave and actually like cooking a meal itself, like the visceral experience of cooking connects you to it, and it like it ends up becoming like experiential instead of a necessity. And I feel like you can apply that metaphor to a lot of things in life. And part of the problem that we experience in modernity, especially in countries in the global north and west, where we're really like stuck in capitalism, because it's not a global experience. But in the capitalist countries, we end up experiencing this thing. We're always trying to find time and clip the wings of experience, and in order to use that time somewhere else. And so it's hard to slow down to do the things that we care about, whether it's as simple as like reading a book instead of listening to a book while multitasking. It's just really hard to do that sometimes. And but anyway, that's kind of why I like to set aside the time to do the lots by hand, do the math by hand, so that I'm like engaging with that way. A lot of assistance. So I'm getting a lot of spirit, a lot of burden. I want to make sure that the lot of burden isn't falling in a place that's like affecting her relationships. A lot of assistance, a lot of harmony, where she's going to find the most joy in her life, and if she can find a partner that can connect her to that joy. Let's see, I'm looking for my other lot notes. I don't have them organized yet I like to do everything into spreadsheets. I don't have a lots spreadsheet yet. But I did recently do a synastry chart between two friends where I have all the lots written out. Here we go. Okay, harmony. Simple. I'm also going to use the lot of women's marriage. Which is, see the Valens. Oh no, this is the Hermes one. So this is ascendant plus Saturn minus Venus. So the lot of spirit is the ascendant plus the sun minus the moon. The lot of harmony is the ascendant plus spirit minus fortune. The lot of burden is ascendant plus fortune minus Saturn. Assistance is ascendant plus spirit minus Jupiter. A lot of women's marriage from Hermes is the ascendant plus Saturn minus Venus. And then the lot of union is the ascendant plus the seventh minus Venus. And then we're not going to worry about the lot of wedding. And then we're going to look at the lot of Venus. which is the ascendant plus fortune minus Venus. So when doing this by hand, like the arithmetic way, there's like two ways to approach it. People like to, just count from, like, we'll say like from the moon to the sun, and then project it from the ascendant. But I like to do it the paper, like on paper math way, where you actually like, which was really hard to get used to, but once I got used to it, it became easier for me to do. And it's where you use 0 degrees Aries as the 0 point of the chart, and then you count all the degrees, and then you like add and subtract them from each other. And so, yeah, I don't know why I like that process so much, but it but it really helps. It really helps me with my accuracy and stuff like that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get the calculated numbers from all of these positions. And so, for example, the ascendant, her ascendant is at 3 degrees Pisces. So that's 333 degrees Pisces in 27 minutes. I'm not going to share the other positions, but just as an example. So that would be 290. And then we have the moon. We'll share a little bit about this chart. The thing that I find that's amazing about this chart is they have a Venus-Sun conjunction with only a separation of 14 degrees in Capricorn in the 11th house. And their eye for beauty is just so detailed. It's really amazing, the type of work that they can do with that cazimi, like that tight conjunction between the sun and Venus in the third decan of Capricorn. And yeah, their ability to make fantastic art is just so phenomenal. I wish I could have music on while doing this, but I don't know. I feel like the copyright stuff gets in the way. I'm not very experienced at the streaming stuff, so I think that like if I had music going on in the background, there'd probably be some sort of like copyright thing that would like disagree with me doing that. Six degrees. Let's see. Natalia or Nicholas, if either of you are still listening, watching, do you have any transit stories you'd like to share? I'm, yeah, we're the biggest story to share for Portland right now is that Donald Trump's coming to town with the military. Well, not himself, but he's sending the National Guard into town to help clean up our streets, I guess. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I don't know, you know, back in 2020 was kind of like the first phase of this relationship with Donald Trump and us, and that was when I feel like they were experimenting with what they're doing now. This whole like disappearing people thing that the ICE does, because it was the border patrol that he sent to the 2020 protests when we were protesting against police brutality. We were and we haven't really been that rowdy lately. There's been I'll finish the first story. So yeah, during the 2020 protests, we had over 100 days straight of people protesting at the Justice Department building in downtown Portland. It was really during the summer, like there was a lot of like demonstrations and stuff, but it was really just kind of isolated to a city block. And, the national media made a huge thing about it. It was really, really overblown. But if anybody wants to hear the on the ground boots on the ground version of what was going on here in 2020, I highly recommend the podcast Uprising, a guide from Portland. It's by Cool Zone Media. And they actually, during the protests is when the podcast was being made, and they were interviewing protesters. They were talking about what was happening on the streets. And, some people are even like, not named witnesses, they kept people's identities safe so that they could share their lived experiences a little bit more easily. So yeah, Uprising, a guide from Portland, to get a better understanding of what was going on. And there's an episode that talks about the moment when Orphic astrology says T-Dog just trying to flex his authoritarian command. Yeah, and he started doing that during this period of time in Portland, where he sent immigration. He sent the border patrol to harass the protests that were going on, and they rented the United States Department of the Border Patrol rented a bunch of unmarked white vans and began just like pulling protesters into the vans off the streets which is what ICE is doing now, and all over the country. And that's when I feel like he was testing the lawfulness of whether or not he could do that. I feel like we were the testing grounds for that, and because people were being abducted into unmarked vans by people that weren't identifying themselves as anything of a police officer or any sort of standard like that, and they were being detained for 24 hours, and their phones were getting broken. They were being questioned for information. They were being harassed. They were being injured. And they're still like, yeah. And it was kind of really traumatizing to the protest community. And yeah, I really feel like Donald Trump was like testing that in 2020. And as far as like the protests lately go, we've not been nearly as loud or rowdy as 2020. There has been a group of people that has been growing recently that have been harassing where ICE is located here in town, the ICE detention facility. And the protest community has actually made some real progress, some real headway on that, because one of the things that the city of Portland decided to do after the community reached out to the city was the city of Portland revoked or began the process of revoking ICE's lease of the property that they're on, because they were for not like I believe it was for not using the land properly. And so they revoked their lease and, basically gave ICE an eviction notice. I think there was a person that was being held there for, I can't remember. The number that keeps coming to mind is 243 days, but that seems like a lot. I don't remember the right number off the top of my head, but they wouldn't allow the investigators into the facility. They had to call for like somebody else to do an investigation, I believe. But regardless, the city of Portland revoked their license. And I think that maybe that's why we had the eye of the eye of Donald Trump. I feel like there's a good way of turning Donald Trump's name into like the eye of Sauron metaphor, but we gained his malefic gaze because of that city decision, I believe, because he had said that he was going to go to Memphis and Chicago, but his gaze turned his eyes towards us first. So yeah. So that's a way that we've been being loud, is that we have been, the community has been protesting. The Eye of l'Orange. Yeah, l'Orange. Yeah, that's good. Trying to do the French accent. L'Orange, l'Orange. The Eye of l'Orange. Yeah, that reminds me of the meme that it's like something like "L'auteur is not afraid." But yeah, I think that's our Mars Pluto square here in Portland, is the National Guard coming to town. All right. So I've got all my positions written down now, so I can actually start doing some math. So first I need to find the lot of spirit. So the ascendant plus the sun minus the moon 3. I guess the other thing that really adds to this person's art experience is the fact that their ascendant is basically pretty much conjunct the fixed star Fomalhaut, which is known for giving artistic vision and ability. And that's definitely part of their experience. So 3 plus 8. So yeah, when doing the handwritten math out version of this, you take the ascendant, which is at 333 degrees, you add it to the degrees of the sun, which is at 298. So 8 plus 3 is 11. The next column is 3 plus 9 plus 1, so that's 13. And then 3 plus 2 is 5 plus 1 is 6. And then you take that total and subtract the moon from it. Which is at 36 degrees. That's 5. 12, so that's 9. Which gives us 595, which is way over 360. Let's see, Orphic astrology says Mars square Pluto here has been Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger announcing withdrawing from the ICC to create an African court. That's interesting. Without having a clear understanding of all of those things combined together. I do understand that there is a African continental movement, for Africa to kind of unite, similarly to the way that the EU is united as one Africa, so that Africa can start making decisions for itself. Can you speculate? Just what I've heard on the news here, but I got to research it more. With the knowledge that you currently have, can you speculate on if this is Western influenced or African independence kind of focused? Orphic's confirming, yeah, there's an African Union. Orphic says, not sure exactly, or not specifically says, not sure. I thought about that possibly being influenced by Russia. Yeah, the instinctual thing that makes me wonder if it's Western influenced or capitalism influenced or bank influenced, whichever way you want to kind of regard that, corporate influenced, is just with it. The ICC's recent ruling against Israel, recent rulings against Israel, and South Africa being a big piece of pushing that case. Any sort of break away from the ICC kind of feels like a a quiet support of Israel, but that's like 1000% just imaginative speculation and not, not rooted in research or anything like that. So that's where the question arose from, I guess, as a way to present that, because I'm not trying to push a specific narrative or anything like that, but I get suspicious, I guess. For those of you who don't know or are watching later, I've got a lot of Scorpio placements, and so I get suspicious. Pluto in Scorpio, Saturn in Scorpio, Moon in Scorpio, and Mars in Scorpio. And my Mercury is in Aries, also ruled by Mars. So I just get suspicious. Orphic says the same, laughing out loud. Same, highly suspicious. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's so murky up there in the lands of the ruling class. There's so much. They just have so much time to like do whatever they want to, push their agenda. The way I think about money in general. One of the things I think about money and being a part of that realm of like CEOs and stuff like that is like, when me, an individual who is of the working class, is dealing with their life, I have to subtract time from my wanting to work with this creative, malleable thing of existence and, building the future and stuff like that. I have to subtract the amount of time I need to go to work in order to get the capital funding in order to feed myself. So there goes 50 hours a week. And then, you have to subtract things like chores and, going to the grocery store and feeding yourself, and all of that time like accumulates to this, like, you only have so many hours in a week. You only have 168 hours in a week, and that time, and then you include like choosing to sleep, for those of you that choose to sleep, and also if you're like other people and have kids, then you need to include them into that time math, and then all of a sudden you're left with like an hour at the end of the day to like push the narrative of how you want your life to go forward. Whereas like when you're in the position, especially if you're born into the position of being a part of this realm of the upper class of CEOs and that sort of thing, like there's different levels of expectations and stuff, but I'm not going to go any further than that as far as like giving a ray of forgiveness towards their life experience. They have all of those things taken care of for them. They have somebody who does the chores. They pay somebody, pointing to myself, an example as being part of the working class. They pay somebody to look over that part of their life. They pay somebody to, cook them meals, or they may not even ever eat at home. They may just always go out to restaurants to eat, and all those things. So all of that time that we spend supporting our own livelihood and maintaining ourselves, they get to use towards shaping the future the way that they want to. Collaborating with time, collaborating with other people in similar positions to build the future that they want to see. And the other way to see that is the other way to kind of like see that vision is that money that they're using to pay those people to take care of those parts of their life is the time that they've accumulated from us, because time is money. And so the money we spend is the time we spend. So they're accumulating our time and then redispersing it into their life so that they can do something else with our time. And another way that I like to point this out in a like astrological view is that when you're looking at a chart, when you're looking at the wheel of the chart, it's separated into houses. And each house, represents parts of our lives. And we can only really focus on one part of our life at a time. We can only attribute our energy and time into one piece of the chart at a time. And the way that like money and power works is that you're paying other people to look at those parts of your chart. Like, for example, the 6th house being the place where we find drudgery, where we do chores, where we maintain our lives. I'm not saying that they pay somebody to brush their teeth, but but they can free up their time to do things like go to the gym if they want to. I don't think our dear leader, Lord Donald Trump, does that, but regardless, they're paying people to look over different parts of their chart. Like they're paying people to watch their 5th house for their kids. They're paying people to watch their 2nd house by hiring financial advisors and people to watch over their money. Like that's kind of how money and power works, is in the lens of astrology, is that you can pay people to watch over all of these other aspects of your house, so of your chart, so that you can focus on like the main creative, or the, like, I don't know, I like to think of them as like some of the more fun parts of the chart. Like I'm having somebody watch my kids so I can go do other 5th house things. Or, I'm, having somebody watch over my finances so I can go travel and do like 9th house things so I can focus on that. Or I can, go to a rock concert and be at the 11th house, or I can, go find partnership and relationships and stuff like that. But yeah, it's kind of how I view money and power through the lens of astrology and stuff like that. And yeah, it's they have all that time to create and shape the world. And I'm not a fan of how they are. I'm not a fan of how they're using their time, I guess. But it's not them using their time, to take it back to something I kind of said in the middle. I'm not a fan of how they're using our time, because it's a social structure. Capitalism is a social structure, and we don't have a lot of say in how capital gets spent. We have a lot of say in, we have something to say in the way governments and states are structured, but we don't get to tell capitalism, corporations, how they get to use their money in the current structure of things. And every company, especially the big ones, all the corporations are kingdoms, are pyramid schemes, are, it's a form of feudalism, like structured into a company, or where the head of the company is the king and the whole kingdom has to operate based on their wills and needs. And so in the current state structure, especially after Citizens United, the ruling on Citizens United, the state structure works to protect those corporate peoples more than they do the public body. And yeah, so long story short, I'm suspicious. I get suspicious about how things change. That was a interesting tangent. So let's see, 46. So I'm still working on this lot of spirit. That turns into 7. So 53, so it's 234. So the lot of spirit lands at 234 degrees from Aries. Jump over to Libra at 180, 210. Oh, that's interesting. So there are a lot of spirit lands at 24 degrees and 53 minutes of Scorpio. Next, I'm going to do a lot of harmony. Now that I have spirit. Orphic, since I have you on here, when you're looking at relationship stuff, what's your favorite go-to, if you don't mind sharing? Besides 7th house and 7th house ruler. For anybody less versed in astrology from an astrologer's practice, you definitely should look at the 7th house and the 7th house ruler when you're exploring relationships in somebody's chart or in your own chart. Face is a little itchy today. Or maybe that's a nervous tick that I have while being on camera. Been having this thought about my son. My son's in the 8th house of Taurus. And so it's called a dark house sun, which means that it doesn't have a line of sight to the ascendant, and it makes it hard for visibility, to feel seen, to be seen, to be perceived. And but I've been kind of leaning towards like the internet being a 12th house place, which makes a trine to the 8th house. And so I'm wondering if being on camera on the internet is actually easier for me. But okay, you look at the first triplicity lord of the seventh, represents spouse, partner, lot of eros, lot of union, marriage. A lot of union, marriage. The let's see. There's a couple of different lots for union, marriage. Really need to take the time to get these lots organized into a table for myself. A lot of union. A lot of union, ascendant plus the seventh minus Venus. Or the other way to say that is seventh Venus to the seventh from the, and then plus the ascendant. Yeah, Venus. Looking at Venus right away is where I went to first, and their Venus is Kazemi, the sun, in the 11th house, and Saturn's in the 10th. And so yeah, that was the first place I went to. That's why I started looking at their lots. Yeah, I've been finding some interesting stuff with a lot of union in solar returns as well. That's where I'm gonna go to after. I've also been definitely finding the periods of felicity through the Fardar. I've been finding that to be crazy accurate. I conducted a wedding, or officiated a wedding at Burning Man, and I did the synastry chart of that couple, and their moments of felicity were beautiful because the moment that they met just like weaved so perfectly with it. And it was funny too because like the one partner who was a Cancer sun, like they had the exact time and date of when they remembered first meeting them, and it was it like they had the exact time of when they first saw them, and the other partner like had a vague understanding of when they first met, and it just like fit their charts perfectly, but it matched up their stories, and it was perfect for her moment of felicity, and then his moment of felicity was actually them getting married at Burning Man. So it was like awesome to see the timing. Seeing if the first triplicity lord, let's see, I'm gonna read all this, so it's all. I look at the first triplicity lord of the seventh, represents spouse's partner, a lot of eros, a lot of marriage. What's happening with Venus for starters? There's a weaving of signatures that obviously can tell us more too, but also the lot of union in timing solar returns is interesting. Or if it continues, seeing if the first triplicity lord is angular or has dignity for how well it will deliver its promise. and you're talking about the first triplicity lord of the seventh. Yeah, and then the moment of felicity for the lot of union is really helpful. Let's see, harmony. Yeah, I hadn't thought. Thanks for bringing the triplicity lord back in, because I use the triplicity lords, but I forget how key they are to. I because they haven't been a part of my classes, my structured classes. I forget to like dive into them for specific topics right away, and it's a really good reminder because the triplicity lords. If you're watching this and you're not as well versed in astrology, each sign has a set of planets that help custodian topics inside of the houses that they sit in. And it's based on the triplicity, which is the astrological word that's used for the elements of the sign. And so each element has a order and structure of different planets that acts as custodians for the elements, whether it's a day or night chart. And so like if you have, say, the easiest one for me to go to off the top of my head is like the first triplicity lord of earth sign in a day chart is Venus. And so whatever the topic is that Venus rules in your chart, the dignity of Venus will help determine how loud those experiences are in your life. And so the reason why Venus, and I like to use the term loud because it kind of like prominent, or a part of the narrative that is the story of your life. I'm trying to stay away from language that denotes positive or negative experiences, because the example that I have that I can run to off the top of my head is that last year I discovered that Venus is the triplicity lord of my 8th house, and the topic is death, and and Venus is in the 8th house in Taurus, and is with the sect light, the sun, and death has been a very loud topic in my life. And so so that's an example of like when the triplicity lord has dignity, especially if it's in the sign that it's governing the triplicity of, and it has dignity, like these things help initiate its ability to bring forward that topic. And so though my own death has yet to be the main topic of my life, thankfully, it is helpful. It has been a very loud part of my experience. And let's see, Orphic has added some stuff here. Continuing with the topic of relationships, secondary progressions are useful too for love chapters, like when the secondary progressed Venus changes signs. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I haven't learned secondary. I understand how secondary progressions work, but I don't how to utilize them past the sun. So that's thanks for that insight. I'm assuming that's basically how it works for all the planets. Like as the secondary progress chart evolves, you look at the topics that the planets rule, or the natural part of their significations, to see how those become loud. Or if one is born with an afflicted Venus, but then later the progressed Venus enters a sign of her domicile or exaltation, for example. Yeah, so if Venus changes dignity in the secondary progression, then it can be a boost for those topics. Or other secondary progressed planets aspecting or conjoining the natal Venus or moon. Yeah. Yeah, and like for me too, one of the things that happens with my chart is because like 90% of my chart is retrograde. Everything except Venus and Mercury, and of course our dear luminaries. We'd have other problems. That's one of Katie and I's favorite jokes, is that we would have other problems if the luminaries went retrograde. That would be a big deal for the whole world. Luckily, they don't. But yeah, my chart is mostly retrograde, with the exception of Venus and Mercury, and the only planet that goes forward is just a couple of years ago, Mars stationed direct in my chart, and then everything else isn't going to change. Well, at least maybe I'll have some posthumous things. Maybe I'll do something in this life that'll carry my story forward. Maybe I'll write a book or be a part of something that helps push a narrative that makes me like remembered by a group of people. And so that when all my planets start going direct in my progress chart, like maybe that'll be a part of my posthumous story. But like it's like not until like in my 90s that anything goes direct, besides what's already direct and now Mars. So so that's one of, I guess, when you're learning astrology, kind of the first chart that you try to learn is your own chart. And so I think that's part of why I haven't looked at progressions as much, is because of how little my chart reacts to it. I think my first experience with looking at progressions was like, well, my chart doesn't change. I mean, the sun moves, but my chart doesn't change. So yeah. Is that the wizard? Is that a wizard emoji that you just posted? Orphic says, yeah, that's fascinating, Dev. Oh, that second progressed Mars station. And I think she posted a wizard glyph or a wizard emoji, denoting my occult studies that have definitely been a part of that time period. Harmony. Okay, so this is 7, 6, 5, 0. So 6 turns into 1.20. 6, 4, 60. 7 by 16. 9. 496. 2. 60. So that turns into 7. That turns into 3. Minus 360. A lot of harmony. Lands in 3060, 1690, 1690, 120, Oh, it's 16. 16. 37 Cancer. Appreciate you hanging out with me on this. I believe Nicholas is still here too. But yeah, appreciate you hanging out with me on this. Orphic, I hope your steak is delicious. I imagine you're the type of person who prefers their steak black and blue, like a nice firm crust on the outside, but very like rare and juicy on the inside. You don't strike me as like a well done sort of steak person. I don't know. That's just the feeling you give off from our interactions. Okay, next. Let's actually look. Let's see. Triplicity Lord of an Earth sign. Day chart. It's Venus. So we're pointing back to Venus in Capricorn for the 7th house. So partnership is really tied towards identity, like doubly so. That's interesting. How did you know? It's my butcher sense. You get a sixth sense. You get a butcher sense about people and what their feelings are about meat. I know grocery store butchers can because I've had a few butcher assistants who've worked in grocery stores. I've never worked in a grocery store. My background is all like culinary kitchen restaurant stuff. But we've hired people to be my assistant that have worked in grocery stores, and they tell me stories about how like they just know they can tell. And yeah, but considering your politics, were you vegan at one point in your life? Because you're lean towards your political mindset. I know my political mindset took me towards vegetarian veganism for a while when I was way younger, and then I stopped. Definitely, as a butcher, I'm constantly confronted with the concept of veganism and vegetarianism, and I support people in all their ideals and values, but I definitely find conflict with a group of vegans that that believe that everybody should be vegan, which I think is a question of ethics on its own, because you're then like forcing cross-cultural, you're forcing people of other cultures to an ideal sensibility that you believe is right for the whole world, and that's its own fascism. Orphic says, ours and me that enjoys some blood. We'll definitely have to barbecue if we meet in the flesh. Yeah, absolutely. I was actually vegetarian from 15 to 22. Yeah, I thought so. Starting to eat meat again in my early 20s for my health. Because but I am mainly plant-based. Yeah. You don't have to eat, we don't have to consume meat the way that, especially in the US, Americans do. But uh, but yeah, Mars is a part of our lives. Mars rules iron, and the consumption of and meat helps produce things that we need in our bodies, things that help maintain our Mars structure, our muscle structure, and our vitality. And yeah, things can be replaced. Things can replace that for to a degree, but it's really hard to know how much you need. The body will tell you when you need some meat for sure if you've gone without for a while. And then also from an astrological perspective, you got to find another way to interact with Mars, because if you're if you're not ingesting Mars stuff, it can help create other Mars issues in your life. Mars diseases, blood diseases, and you can become anemic. And also like your sense of aggression, whether you then produce it outwards towards other people, or Mars becomes invited to you from the outside in through other channels, can get it can get dicey if you're choosing to not interact with Mars. I've seen it like yeah, I've seen it manifest. And I'm not saying that, yeah, I'm not trying to tell anybody how to live their lives or how to diet, and I'm definitely not a doctor. This is not medical advice. But speculatively, uh, maybe that's kind of where that militaristic vegan attitude comes from, is they're still expressing the martial by demanding a world that changes to their ideal, and expressing that like forcefully towards other people. Um, but yeah, just a thought. It's not I'm not trying to do anti-vegan propaganda here. That's not my life. That's not my goal. I'm not here to summon that. I'm just doing some astrological speculation. Uh, lot of Venus. One of the things I'm seeing as a repetitive pattern in this chart is like this person has such a care and love for their children, and it just shows up so many different ways. First of all, the way it shows up is they have an exalted moon in Taurus, and their exalted moon in Taurus rules over their fifth house of children. And you just really see that. I just have really watched them evolve into this like really caring, like, I don't want to say like completely like soccer mom figure, but like definitely like engaged with their children's lives, caring about like giving them everything that they need in order to grow up to be wonderful people, and like, making sure that they are engaged with their lives and stuff like that. It's just really beautiful to see that. And I just found that a lot of harmony, the spirit fortune harmony, lands in Cancer as well, lands in their fifth house. So this like feeling of goodness in life like really rests in the art that they create, and also like maintaining the stability of their children. So like there's definitely like, and with Venus being in Capricorn, like there's definitely a mama bear like attitude. There's definitely a mama bear structure forming here of like, whoever they try to find partnership better be as engaged with maintaining the harmony of their children's lives as much as they are, because that's definitely becoming a focus in this chart for sure. Yeah, Orphic says, "Oh, that's beautiful." Yeah, it's definitely resonates. And then a lot of fortune is in the fourth house in the home, so it's like there's wanting to have and it's conjunct Chiron. So you could also say that there's a wound around home life and wanting to like trying to build the family that maybe like that they didn't have growing up or something like that. And so like there's definitely this like why a partnership may be struggles because they're just having a hard time um yeah, close. So Orphic asks if the lot of harmony is trining the lot of spirit. Yeah, it's close. It's not a it's definitely close enough. It's like a 3 degree separation trine from Cancer to Scorpio. Uh and I had a thought. Yeah, that might be, they might one of the things that might be happening is they might be having a hard time finding a partner who fits the envisioned role that they have for them as well as part of like creating this like established family family setting that they want. And part of that might have to do with the fact that Neptune is also in Capricorn with Venus and Mercury and the Sun. And though it's a very, very wide separation, um, what I've been taught through the course of Austin Coppock through FOA is that when outer planets cohabitate in a sign, in the house, they're affecting everybody that's there. So uh, Neptune tends to, especially what I've noticed with Neptune and Capricorn, is we look for Capricorn to be this in the chart. We always look for Capricorn to be this place of structure. It's governed by Saturn. It's a place of structure where we can initiate material things into the world, and it's not fixed. It's where we can like build structure, where lay one brick on top of the next one is a way I like to think of Capricorn. But we had this period of 14 years in the late 80s, early 90s, where Neptune was there and also Uranus, not in this chart, but Neptune had, I'm not going to use the word corrupted, but Neptune destabilized Capricorn while it was there. One of the ways I like to imagine or like to visualize this is because Capricorn's a cardinal sign. I kind of feel like Neptune became this like grease underneath the wheels of Capricorn, so that like Capricorn's wheels like spin out or like run in place, and it's hard for them to like get solid treading on what they're trying to do while Neptune was there. And Orphic says, fortune in fourth I've seen also show up in those who end up healing their bloodlines, having ancestral sensitivity support. Orphic continues, there can be a lot of heartache when you're breaking generational curses too. Yeah, I could see that. And with Chiron being there, that's probably part of that wound. For sure. And yeah, it's interesting. I've known this person for a really long time. It's been interesting to see them on their journey, and hence one of the reasons why I'm working on their chart, is to continue, see if I can help find them some aid or some guidance. Let's see. I'm actually finishing up the lot of Eros right now, so let me just finish that up. Let's see, 30, 60, 90. Nope. And we have well, we actually have the lot of Eros, which I'm assuming you're saying when you're the calculation you're talking about when you're talking about the lot of Eros is, I'm assuming you're talking about from Venus to Fortune, that lot of Eros, which I have written down as the lot of Venus. It's one of the things, if anybody ends up watching this, that you find is like the language of astrology gets confused when different astrologers use different terms for different things, but it's like one person will say Eros, but they mean the lot of harmony, or somebody will say the lot of harmony, but they mean the lot of Eros, but we're all just confusing our calculations. And so in this chart, what we do end up having is the lot of Spirit is conjunct Mars in Scorpio in the 9th. And so then the lot of Venus or Eros, Venus to Fortune from the ascendant, and harmony are conjoined by only separated by a few minutes in Cancer. And so they're both receiving a trine from Mars. Both of those placements. And then Spirit, Venus, and then Venus also acts as the triplicity lord of the 7th, and the lot of harmony and Eros. None of those are aspecting Saturn, and so though we don't want to see like Saturn aspecting certain points, sometimes Saturn in helpful aspects can create stability, but in this chart, it is creating instability in the 7th by squaring the 7th itself from a position of strength in the 10th. but then it's not giving any form of stability by line of sight anyway to any of these other points. So that's part of the issue. We find Saturn in the 10th in Sagittarius with Uranus, who also acts as another destabilizing factor. Saturn governs both the Lord of the Seventh, the Triplicity Lord of the Seventh, and Venus, and Jupiter, who's in the 12th. So that's another interesting thing. But luckily, Venus is making Venus and the Triplicity Lord of the Seventh and the Lord of the Seventh custodians. I wish I could remember to say custodians, but Lord is so much quicker. Are all making a trine to the 7th house, but then so again is Virgo, creating a weird okay, a lot of spirit to Venus from the ascendant for Eros. Okay, I'll write that one down. Is that Paulus or Saul or is that a Hermetic lot? I can't remember which one that is. A lot of spirit to Venus. Okay, so a lot of spirit to Venus, that would be a lot of spirit to Venus. That would be ascendant plus Venus minus spirit. So we go ascendant. It's the original Hermetic lot from Paulus. Okay, yeah. Okay, this is a Hermetic lot. So I always put a little Hermes glyph next to the Hermetic lots. 7, 3, 3. Oh, and it's almost noon, so I'll probably be done here pretty soon. So Ascendant plus Venus. And it's been awesome to chat with you, Natalia. I appreciate your insights. Let's start 32. This is 11. That's 12, 13. So that turns into 630 minus spirit. 234. Turns into 11. So that's 6, 7. Turns into 5. That turns into 12. That's 3. That's 9. That turns into 397. And then 53 minus 32 is 1. 21. Negative 21. So minus 59. 838. So it's just 396. Point 8 minus 360. 6. Oh wow. Yeah, kids are a big factor here. It's turning out 3621, so 621. So the lot of Eros lands. Oh, it looks like Natalia left. But the lot of Eros lands like on this person's moon as well, which governs their children, their fifth house. So yeah, children are going to be a big factor of whether relationships are successful or not. But yeah, anyway, thank you. Thank you for joining me. If you watch this video later, I hope you find it useful, or at least as a way to kind of get to know me on a more like personal level. Obviously, I shared a lot of personal stories. Thank you, Orphic Astrology, Natalia, for coming and joining. Thank you also, Nicholas, Sparkles of Gold. Check out Orphic's Patreon. Check out Nicholas's YouTubes. And also check them out for consultations. I'm also a working astrologer. You can find my work at selenesgateway.com. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell if you desire. Thanks for joining me, and as I always say, may the fire inside guide you.